That was the other thing about our island. Each town had its own police force, which gave all the residents an added feeling of comfort. In the winters, when the island was at a quarter of its normal capacity, it seemed like overkill. But when the population exploded during the summer season, everyone was grateful for the extra oversight. But I knew what Ethan meant. Things had been surprisingly contentious out in the Sea Spray neighborhood because of the feral cat colony that had come to our attention a few weeks ago. Many of the residents found it appalling that these poor cats had dared to choose their woods to live in, which meant they were opposed to feeders traipsing around out there, setting up cat shelters and feeding stations. When Katrina Denning, my rescue counterpart and animal control officer of Daybreak Harbor, first told me there was major resistance to helping the cats, I thought she was exaggerating. Rescue people? And as a longtime rescuer and a current cat cafe owner, I could say this, sometimes tended to inflate these type of situations if we felt the people weren't doing enough to help. But I'd seen with my own eyes over the past couple of weeks how much the situation had declined. Someone had even vandalized one of the little shelters some kids from a local school had made us. I couldn't be sure it was someone from the neighborhood, but it seemed pretty coincidental. Residents had gone from lamenting about the filthy stray cats living in their neighborhood to flat out refusing us access through a lot of our entry points to the woods. Lack of education, and a lot of snobbery, in my opinion. But we'd gritted our teeth, pasted on smiles, and attempted to educate, inform, and engage. And with the kindness of a couple of the neighbors with hearts, we had permission to get to the feeding stations through certain yards. It didn't help that there had been a rash of thefts in the neighborhood. Christmas decorations, for heaven's sake. So probably a bunch of bored rich kids doing the stealing. But the cat feeders were taking the blame. Some of these crazies were even talking about removing the cats through extreme measures. Unfortunately, when Katrina had heard about this last week, it had sent her into a frenzy. She'd threatened some of the residents with animal cruelty charges, which ultimately resulted in her boss, the new police chief who had replaced Grandpa, banning her from caring for the colony. "At least until things settled down," she told me, almost spitting the words, clearly offended at Chief McAuliffe's approach. So, it wasn't exactly a stable situation. Although I still highly doubted anyone was going to attack me. It wasn't even my night to feed, but since Katrina had gotten herself banned and most of our other volunteers had quit because of all the turmoil, there was really no one else to do it. The only remaining volunteers were Adele Barrows, this guy Jonathan who couldn't care less about the drama, and me. Adele was one of my volunteers at my cat cafe, JJ's House of Purrs, and a quintessential crazy cat lady. She had more energy and spunk at 60 than pretty much anyone half her age, like me, especially when it came to cats. Jonathan worked with Katrina at the animal control office. He had covered last night and Adele this morning, so it was my turn. So off I went. Maddie James, cat rescue superhero, who needed an extra cape because it looked pretty darn cold out. "Are you really sure you have to go?" Val asked doubtfully, looking out the window. I followed her gaze. The snow had started coming down harder. I reminded myself that I was the cat's only hope of eating tonight, and sucked it up. I was a rescuer. We were kind of like the U.S. Postal Service. Neither rain, nor sleet, nor snow could stop us. I do, and it won't take long. They need food, and I have to make sure their water isn't frozen. We'd placed heated water bowls in a shed with electricity that one kind resident let us use as a feeding station. But not all the cats...